Cool. Ari, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, sir. So, as you know, you're a travel expert. You obviously travel a lot. That's kind of your niche. So, let's go back to when this pandemic began. How much did living through that pandemic affect the way that you do business now? Do you have any like lasting reverberations from that time period that still influence the way that you live now?
Um, it changed everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So my whole business came to a halt. I went completely bankrupt. I didn't have any. I had a small business, no money in the bank, no risk management plan, no nothing like that. So I had to just shift gears and adapt. At the time, I decided to do all sort of things online. Everybody was on their computers. Nobody can go out. So I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna start coaching people around the business. And then I did that for a while. It did pretty good, and I had clients from all over the world. And the good thing about it is, even before the pandemic, I built my business so that I can work from anywhere in the world. And it's only after the pandemic that it became kind of this remote work became fashionable. and But for me, it was just kind of what I wanted to do, and travel was a big part of it. And yeah, so pandemic made me lost my whole business, shifted gears, and then because of that, I developed a lot more skills. I went into different kinds of industries. I went into technology, still in travel, but travel technology. And if I didn't do that, I would have still been doing the same old thing that I was doing before the pandemic. So I learned a lot. And I gained a lot of skills that, yeah. I know I'm not saying it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
It was difficult. It needed a lot of adaptability, a lot of just being flexible, being positive too. Because
Yeah.
when you lose your business, you lose everything you built. You kind of go in a rut for a while, and you just have to kind of like take a step back and look at what you can actually do. And most of the times, you find other ways.
Yeah.
And it's not just pandemic; it's like everything in life, right?
Yeah.
Whenever we have some downs, we need to go back up again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it's these are great tests that the universe throws at us.
Yep, it certainly is. So let me ask you this. Let's get to the heart and soul of what you do now in 2025. I'm going to do that by putting you in front of a bunch of grade school kids. Third graders, career day. One of the kids in the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
I help travel businesses make money. These businesses are running amazing trips around the world for their clients, and they need to do it really well. And so I just help them do it better.
What's the most amazing business trip that you've been on yourself?
Whew. That's a tough one. South Africa. Going to one of the biggest travel shows around the world. It's called the World Travel Forum. It happens in Cape Town pretty much on a yearly basis. There's one that happens in London. Yeah, Cape Town was amazing. I met a lot of amazing people, went surfing, went to safari, and I went to a few nonprofits that rehabilitate animals and being this close to a cheetah and so on. So it was definitely one of a kind.
So let me ask you this. The climate now in 2025, especially in America with everything that's going on, all of this noise that's happening, how is that affecting travel? I mean, how is that affecting the industry you're in? Which way is it going?
It's booming, like three, four, five times, sometimes 10 times more than previous years. It's going even better than it was before pandemic. So things are different. People, I think that people have more FOMO. They want to travel. They want to see more of the world before another crazy thing happens.
Yeah.
So I think there's a sense of FOMO, but also now with the internet, more and more people are connected. More and more people see that their friends being abroad, their uh, their colleagues have been traveling and so on, and they just get, I guess they get jealous and they want to have their own journey, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
for sure. So, what did you want to be when you were a kid? When you were in the third grade, what was your dream life?
You wouldn't believe it. So I wanted to be an architect, but
Okay,
not like any other architect. I wanted to be an architect that specialized in stairs.
okay,
It's very specific.
yeah.
And then anybody asked me this, so I'm like, yeah, I just see that all stairs are pretty boring, and I want to change them. And that was my how my mind worked, I guess.
So, were
About it.
you influenced by MC Escher? Because a lot of his stuff have steps in it.
Not not necessarily,
Okay.
no. No, not at all. I was, yeah, just thought that they were all the same. They were all boring, and I needed to do something about it.
Yeah, interesting. So, how did you get to this point where being a business consultant, being an expert on travel, take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were the foundational seeds that were planted into you that have evolved into you being an entrepreneur and a travel expert?
So at first, I never thought I was going to be in the travel industry to begin with. I love travel. It was a big part of my life. When I grew up as a kid, we moved a lot. I had about 12 homes by the time I was 18, so I moved quite a bit. Never really settled anywhere, and always thought it just became. Can you still hear me?
Yes, it
Yeah.
kind of went
Um,
funky for a minute, but you're good.
yeah, so it kind of became a habit for me. Travel just became a lifestyle, the way I how I see the world. And then when I was 18, got my passport, left, and then went to study abroad, and then moved to three different countries. And now I'm trying to settle for at least 5 years here in Spain. But going back to your question, I never thought it's going to be a career for me. So, but the one thing about my childhood, all this movement, is that I felt like I needed, like the world was too big. Moving from one place to another to another, it felt like it was too big for me, and I was just a tiny little dot, and I'm still a tiny little dot in this universe, right? We all are. But at the same time, I wanted to bring the world a little, like bring it closer somehow, just make it feel more familiar. And music was something that made me kind of connect with the world in a way that it doesn't feel too big. Because everywhere I went around the world, everybody was listening to the same kind of music. Some have better taste than others, but it's still, in a way, you still have the same kind of taste out there, the same kind of music. It is the same kind of things, from popular music to rock to blues. To everywhere you go, especially in my generation, we've been listening to the same music no matter where you go in the world. And so music felt like that was the thing for me that brought the world a little bit closer. So I went on, I started working in the music industry. So I studied music management for 4 years and then went to work in the music industry. I worked with different indie bands and musicians, and I worked with a label. And then 2015 was when Spotify showed up and completely changed the industry. So that was the COVID. That was the COVID of the music industry. So it changed things for me, and at that time, I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I wanted to start something new. And I think because of the moving around as a kid, I just became so how can I put it? Just so accustomed, so used to starting new.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go to Morocco. I went to Morocco, and then because the travel business was so big at the time, everybody was inviting me to, yeah, check this out, check this company, look at this. You speak really good English. You've been around the world. You would be perfect for this. And then one guy, just an acquaintance, invited me over for a business meeting, and then he gave me a job. It's like, oh, you have nothing to do. How about you do this? So I was like, okay, let's do it. And suddenly, just a few months later, I became the manager of the whole company, and then started working with some different other companies because I didn't like they were doing things that I wanted to try new stuff. So eventually stepped up different companies, and then I started my own. I started my own DMC, a destination management company. And then that's how it all came together in a nutshell. There's a lot of details in between, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. So, who's been kind of an inspiration for you in your work? Being an entrepreneur and obviously highly inspired by what you do. Who's been hero for you?
Really good question. I wouldn't say I have one person. I have few people that I admire or that I get inspired from that have done amazing things around the world. But I wouldn't say that there is this one person that was it for me. Hmm. I think the closest would be one of my best friends. His name is Niels, and he always just encouraged me to try new things. So if there's just one person I could pick, that would be my best friend.
Okay. So let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that might benefit you in your career path and your evolution or in general, and hang out with them and understand how they roll and what they do, who would that be?
A lot of people ask me that question.
Yeah.
I can't pick one name because it just there's so much talent out there. There's so many people that are doing amazing things. Yeah, you caught me off guard there. I
No, you're
wouldn't give
fine.
you a name.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. So let me ask you this. You mentioned South Africa, but I'm curious, of all the places that you've traveled to on the planet, what was one of the most unexpectedly magical places that just blew you away? You didn't expect it.
South Africa was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
But if I could pick another one, it would be Indonesia.
Yeah.
It's just because it's so far away from anything that I've ever seen, and they have such a diverse culture there. So everything is different: the food, the traditional clothes, the landscape, nature. It's all just very very different. But yeah, that would be the second biggest country that I would say, okay, it really left a mark on me. I also spent a whole month there, so maybe that made a difference.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. How do you balance this life of being an entrepreneur and taking care of your clients to the highest level that you can, but also take care of yourself? How do you balance that and be the best you can be every day? What motivates you to get up to do that?
Um, One of my other best friends, she calls it Intuition Day. And this is something that we do. Sometimes we just pick a day, either in the middle of the week or the weekend or whatever, and we just do absolutely nothing. We don't plan anything. We don't, book anything on the calendar. We do nothing. We just wake up in the morning. We turn the alarms off. No alarms are allowed. You wake up as whenever you wake up naturally, and then just see how the day unfolds.
Yeah.
Do as you feel rather than as what you planned. And I think those days typically, uh, you know, I learned so much. Like I feel like my intuition is like this magical thing that we never really listen to. But in those days where you just let things unfold, some things usually come up that are very important.
So the
Yeah.
cornerstone of any good entrepreneur, any good business mind is risk. You have to take risks. So when you look at the arc of your career, what's the biggest risk that you've taken?
I would say every time I decided to completely start from scratch. So that was the Spotify 2015. That was the 2020 COVID. So during that time, I had to just sit down, understand what I'm good at, and then just start something completely new.
So speaking of music, what was the first live concert you saw that blew you away?
Floyd, Roger Waters.
Wow. Okay. I almost caught them when they came to Kansas City. They played at Arrowhead and I didn't get it. So let me ask you this. What has been one of the, and it may, you already may have answered it. What has been one of the best concerts all the way around that you've ever witnessed?
Chemical Brothers.
Wow. What were they like? I dig those guys a
They were
lot.
incredible. Really, really interesting show. Amazing graphics and so on. They really they go the extra mile.
Because they're in that vein of kind of Thievery Corporation and Moby and that whole. Have you seen Moby live?
No, I
Okay.
would love to though.
Yeah, I
I missed
caught
that one.
him. Yeah, he was wonderful. I caught him in I think in '05. But he has a new podcast that he's put out, and it's fascinating listening to all of those stories, especially being in the indie music world. That's kind of I have a jazz radio show, but I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the indie world. It's just those are the cats that are just hitting it hard no matter what and getting after it. So, who's on your radar right now in the indie world that you're really digging up on?
I've been leaning more towards electronic music
Yeah.
in the last few years. So haven't really, I wouldn't say that yeah, that like back in the day, I really had time to just sit down and just listen to a whole record. Now I'm just whatever comes my way through the algorithm.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of my favorite DJs right now is Black Coffee.
Okay.
And he's just, the type of tunes he has that really put me in the mood where I'm like I can actually just still focus.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot of things going on in the music that distracts you. It's kind of like something in the background that puts your brain into some sort of wave where you can actually put
Totally.
some work done.
Yeah, I got into a vibe of doing chill hop for a little while, and it was just kind of this amalgamation of that genre bending back and forth, and that was really fun. But it's interesting. Speaking of DJing, and I mentioned Moby. Moby did a history of it because he started in the 80s in the old industrial warehouse scene, and how he worked his way up, and how all of these guys have kind of worked themselves from the Bad Bunnies to the prominent ones, and how that whole thing evolved. And it's interesting because a lot of the early DJ parties were jazz driven, and then of course they evolved into what we have now. Then there was raves and acid parties and all of those kinds of things. But it's interesting to see how that happened. But so I'm curious at this point in your career, with everything that you've done, if you had a dream tonight and you ran into the 18-year-old version of you trying to figure out where your career was going to go, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated over time, what advice would you dispense on that young version of you?
Damn, you asked some really good questions.
Thanks.
um, I would say don't overthink it and just do it. I know it's kind of cliche, but when we're at that age, we just kind of like we think too much about what our friends will think or what our family will think, or you know, uh, we don't actually take action. We forget to
Yeah,
take action. We overthink the idea that we want to implement and so on, and we do come up with some really good ideas at that time, but it's usually a time where you also need to learn and acquire as much knowledge as possible. And we start overthinking about things without taking that action where we can just sit down and just suck in as much knowledge as you can so you can start implementing and putting things through. So yeah, I would just say that cliche thing, just do it, the Nike swoosh.
yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
get it. So, of all of these things that you've accomplished and evolved into at this point in your career, what are you ultimately the proudest of? Just even overall, personal, professional, what are you the proudest of?
Being able to start from scratch is something that I'm extremely proud of. A lot of my friends and people around me at that time didn't know what to do, and they just found it a reason to kind of like hold still and completely get almost like blocked without knowing what to do. And I somehow something just pushed me to keep trying new things.
Yeah,
And for some reason, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed trying new things and coming up with new ideas or testing some new skills that I've acquired and so on. And it's yeah, I feel like it's something that I'm really proud of. Whether at work, but also moving to new countries or saying yes to that invitation or yeah, never really being scared of taking that step.
so at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's an incredible question.
That's the therapy question.
Yeah. Whoa, that's tough. What's my perception of me? You're just a guy trying new things that has just a big drive, a lot of grit and motivation, and just doesn't know how to sit still. Gets bored when things just become monotonous, and this is probably the reason why I can't just keep a job for a long time, and I have to just have my own kind of
Yeah,
thing. Um, yeah, that's
I
about
dig
it.
it. So, what do you like the best about living in Spain? What's the greatest thing about it?
The sunshine, the European culture, but still close to, the Morocco where I'm from. I'm like, I can see Morocco from my balcony.
Wow.
I can just hop on a ferry and visit my parents if I want to. It's foods, I mean, there's so many things. The amazing Spanish people is just, I think Mediterraneans are just very, very similar wherever you go, from Italy to Greece to Morocco to Spain. Is just such a very similar culture. Um, yeah, I'm just really lucky
Yeah.
to live here.
Yeah, my ancestors are from Italy, so I spent some time in my 20s traveling, and I went to Florence and Rome, and I actually was in the back of a water taxi on the morning of September 11th, 2001, which probably confirmed to me that I'm truly more Italian than I think I am. But I love the way that they do what they do. Their four-course meal, just the way they roll. There's a vibe. And whenever I would talk to people, they would just talk about how much they enjoyed their time over there. There's just I get exactly what you're saying. The only thing about Spain that's different from the other places that I'm totally enamored with is the whole siesta thing. The fact that you can nap and you know what I'm saying? Like I'm a parent now, so and I've been a parent for so long, I don't even know what that means. I wouldn't even know what to do to nap. But the fact that it's woven into their lifestyle is totally intuitive because what do you need ultimately at the end of the day more than water? Sleep. You
Yeah.
know, that makes sense.
Well, I've been here for 3 years and a half now, and I still didn't get a hold of that. I think maybe I need a few more years to be able to get that nap going. And
Yeah.
I can never do it. I
I
just
get it. I totally get it because I have the restless syndrome too, so I get it. So, final question for you. We get off the call, a dreamy time machine pulls up in front of your house. You can go back in the history of live music and see one concert. Where are you going?
I go to a festival,
Okay.
Woodstock.
Okay. I dig it. Very cool. Hey, man, if anyone wants to reach out, they're curious, they have questions, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
www.atlasperk.com. Atlas, like the map, perk, Perk. Like in any of the buttons, book a time. For your listeners, I'll give 1 hour free consultation. Usually we just give 30 minutes. But only for if you say I'm coming from Joe,
Okay.
I'll give you an hour, so an extra 30 minutes.
Okay, cool. Ari, this has been wonderful. I'm glad we hooked up. Best of luck with
Thank you so
everything. I
much, Joe.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.